blocked by Ibaka.
With no regard for human life.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala. Bruder to the basket. Finally!
Here goes Victor.
Oh, Oladipo.
Big time play, big time play. Woo!
Hello, everybody. This is the NBA Post-Up. My name is Cyrus Rogers.
And as usual, I'm Kaunda, Chama.
And we are Africa's NBA podcast. In fact, we deal with everything to do with the NBA, basketball in general, and the hoop life.
On a weekly and daily basis.
So, one of the things we want to do is not waste your time. We're going to go straight into our topics for the week. This podcast is brought to you in association with Kwese. We are the NBA.com editors for Kwese Sports. You can catch all things NBA on the Kwese platforms, whether it be on our TV stations, on the free-to-air station, or even if you bought our set-top boxes, you're going to watch the NBA with us on Kwese. Kaunda, what a week we've had.
My word. Cyrus, I feel like I'm in like the Twilight Zone or maybe in a bizarro NBA universe. How have you been feeling looking at what's been happening?
You know, it's a crazy, crazy season so far. And the start to the season has been one of those where you said, oh, you think you know how things are going to go down. You don't know the NBA.
Woo.
So the Cavaliers and the Warriors are in, some might say, a very weird space. In the sense that both of them have started the season relatively poorly. I think the Cavaliers may be in a worse off position than the Warriors.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at standings, obviously, the Warriors are higher than the Cavaliers, but let's look at it for what it is. Both teams, relatively, are doing bad. You know, if you look at them against their own standards.
Yeah.
Like, the Warriors are the champions.
Yeah.
And they've lost some very tricky games.
Those are games that they would have won in the past. In fact, if anything, right, if you were a betting person, you would have been like, Warriors W next to this game, Warriors W next to that game. I mean, the Pistons game in particular was one where I think a lot of people were shocked that A, the Pistons came back from such a big deficit, and B, went on to win the game at Oracle Arena. So things have been a bit off, but then the Warriors have also not lost back-to-back, which I think is a key component in all of this. You know, currently their record is 5-3. So this would be it's a solid enough record to the start of the season. By their standards, though, we'd expect them. I mean, this should be 8-0, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the team that once won. About 2 seasons ago, they only lost how many games? 9 games?
Yeah, in a season.
In a season. And they start off this season like this. But anyway, maybe it's the gelling stage at the beginning of the season as well.
And definitely. And I think, look, you don't always hit the ground running. And I think this is also what's happened to the Cavaliers. There's been a lot of change in that setup. So the rosters have changed. Losing somebody like Kyrie Irving would affect any team. It seems to have affected the Cavaliers more than most.
But Cyrus, the Cavaliers bulked up. Let's face the truth. The Cavaliers bulked up. At the beginning of the season, you and I were talking about the fact that if you look at the Cavaliers starting unit and the second unit, they both look solid. You know, obviously now it's sans Isaiah Thomas, who's still recovering from injury, but still, you know, Derrick Rose is not a mug, although, you know, he's also on and off. He plays hot and cold. And
Dwayne Wade is no mug.
Dwayne Wade, he's no mug either. Enough respect to him for going to the bench, knowing very much the position he needs to play. But still, sitting as low as 10th spot sometime this week, come on, Cyrus.
Well, the crazy thing is, behind the Knicks, I think let's not forget. Look, and no disrespect to the Knicks.
No disrespect to the Knicks, but speaking of the Knicks, that's one of the L's they've already taken this season. The Cavaliers have taken an L to the Knicks.
Would you have expected that the Cavaliers would start a season losing to both teams in New York City? That the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks would have come up trumps in a game against the Cavs who have LeBron James?
Yeah, the current Cavs who have LeBron James and Dwayne Wade.
Well, look, it's a start to the season I think they're going to have to deal with at some point. And I guess this is something that both Tyronn Lue and Steve Kerr will be scratching their heads over. How do we get consistency back in the game? And they'll do it. I mean, I don't think anybody's saying these guys are going to suddenly miss the playoffs or something like that. But they have a lot of work to do, and I think that's where the concern comes in.
But Cyrus, speaking of surprises, those were 2 sort of bad-ish surprises, but there's been some great surprises.
There really, really have been. And this comes from teams who have in some way overperformed.
Yeah, like Let's look at the West just for a little bit. The Memphis Grizzlies.
I must say, grit and grind has never looked so good. So the Grizzlies topping the Western Conference, how are they doing this? The Grizzlies haven't brought in star players.
No.
They haven't made a super team.
Absolutely.
In essence, this is it. So the super teams are the ones that are not performing at the highest level, and the unheralded teams, would almost be like the Avengers B.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if you look at the Grizzlies, they lost one of the biggest grinders in Zach Randolph, who went to the Sacramento Kings. But still, they're able to perform at this level.
So I guess this goes back to coaching, right? Where you look at Coach Fizdale and you say, this man knows what he's doing. The pieces that he has in that team are really working, and they're working well. Mike Conley, as always, a floor general, and the Grizzlies are just performing really well. And then you look at another coach who's really, really doing well, and that's Doc Rivers. Everybody was almost writing off the Clippers, saying, well, they've lost Chris Paul, and where are they going to go to now?
Look, I was one of those naysayers. Let me just put it out there. I was one of those naysayers because, you look at them losing Chris Paul, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is a star point guard, and they just lost him. And sixth man of the year, Jamal Crawford had left them, and you're thinking, what's happening here? How are they going to put things together? But if you look at people like Danilo Gallinari stepping up to the plate, Blake Griffin, who you don't see too much as a two-way player, now his offensive game has had to step up a notch. DeAndre Jordan is still there. It's still Lob City.
He's beast moding. Patrick Beverly, Williams, the new additions to that team. I mean, okay, fine. They've lost Teodosic, Milos Teodosic to injury, but this is a solid unit. In fact, Austin Rivers has also played pretty well this season. So you have to look at the Clippers as being one of those where we have to admit, I think we wrote them off.
Yeah.
But then they've showed that you can't write them off at all.
I hope they can keep it up, though.
No, and I think they will. They've got the depth to do that. And a team that's also performed really well is the Jazz. After losing somebody like Gordon Hayward, your all-star player, you'd expect that they might also fall off. But there they are in the mix. They're in the playoff places in the West. And Quinn Snyder's done a fantastic job. So you have to look at the Jazz and say, this is another, not surprise as such, but just what's surprising is that they've maintained.
Absolutely. I mean, they were in the playoffs last season, although it was the Clippers that took them out. But
I believe it was the other way around.
It was the other way around, my bad. But you got to look at them this season and say, these guys have lost the key parts, but they've adjusted.
Yeah.
What I'm impressed with a lot of these teams that we've mentioned, the Grizzlies, the Clippers, and the Jazz, they've had some key players leave, but they've adjusted.
That's it. It's making the critical adjustments. Then you look at the Eastern Conference, and that's where things are also looking magical. And I use that word because the Orlando Magic have just been sensational. To sit almost, like top two in the East, maybe just behind the Boston Celtics. They've got similar records, and you just wonder as to what's changed in Orlando, or is it just that the system is now clicking, that they just need a little bit more time, and now the players are going for it.
To tell you the truth, I was actually worried about the Magic when Serge left and went to the Toronto Raptors. I thought, oh my word, now Serge Ibaka, an efficient power forward, has left the Orlando Magic. This is problems for them because, truth be told, I haven't been seeing the best of performance from our other African brother, Bismack Biyombo. He's been struggling a little bit since he got to the Magic, but they've also adjusted. I mean, Aaron Gordon has started off this season like,
a man possessed.
Absolutely.
By the gods of basketball.
Absolutely. Ivan Fournier, Algerian French, forward. He's in there. He's putting up impressive numbers.
He really is. And all in a system that works for them. When you look at the likes of Alfred Payton, he's contributing. We haven't seen Wesley Iwundu come through in that unit yet, but I think that they're working in the right direction. Somebody like Jonathan Simmons is playing extremely well. So the Magic are doing well. The Pistons are doing well. The Pacers are doing well. This is the NBA that we love.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that this new season, Cyrus, has started off with what can I say? No clear favorites.
Yeah.
Everybody has lost some games. Everybody has won some games. And things are looking almost even Steven. You can't really call it definitely and say, it's going to be a repeat finals, because some teams have said, Really?
Exactly.
You think it's going to be a repeat finals?
And this is where the joy of the game comes in, because with the right coaching, with the right teams, you can perform excellently. And speaking of excellent performances, this week Victor Oladipo do his thing, and then Kaunda, you put together a piece. In fact, he is our African Player of the Week this week.
Absolutely. Cyrus, this gentleman has gone back to the city, Indiana, where he had his college days, and where he put up impressive numbers. And he's like, okay, this is like my second home. The crowd loves me. They remember who I am from my college days, and I'm going to perform. And look, he's putting together what? 23.9 points per game so far, 4.4 rebounds, 3 assists. And he's also stealing, 1.7 steals per game. But Cyrus, one question comes to mind. Before we get back to, Victor Oladipo. So who won that trade? Was it OKC with Paul George, or was it the Indiana Pacers with Victor Oladipo and Sabonis?
Look, I think the thing is that when you get two really good quality players for one player, you feel that you've gotten a good deal. And I think it's almost a 50-50, because when you think about it, okay, so I'm sitting on the fence here. I'm just saying, I'm sitting on the fence. I'm not budging from the fence. I think that OKC, the Thunder, got a great deal. Paul George is a fantastic player, but losing him has not weakened the Indiana Pacers. In fact, it's possibly even strengthened them, because with Sabonis there, and he's been incredible. And then you've got Victor Oladipo out to prove a point. You've got players who are really trying to get to the top of their game and show that they too could be all-stars one day.
Absolutely. Now back to Oladipo. You remember he was here for the NBA Africa game earlier this year, and he did mention that he feels great about going back to Indiana, and he's really going to perform. I think, Oladipo, I remember him at the Magic. At the Magic, he was great. He was explosive. To me, he reminded me of another Westbrook. Like if Westbrook was to ever play shooting guard, it would have been Victor Oladipo. Now, when he joined Westbrook, I think he had to play second fiddle to the star player of OKC. Now, going to Indiana, I think has given him that freedom, that license to just go back to his explosiveness, to dominate, to be that shooting guard that he's supposed to be. And I think it's coming out in the numbers.
You see it.
The numbers don't lie.
They don't lie
Certain
at all.
people lie, certain people change things, but numbers
don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. In fact, I think the thing about Victor Oladipo was that because he won MVP of the NBA Africa game, and he wanted to take that MVP form into the season. Boy, he wasn't kidding.
And it's working. And I think the Indiana Pacers will go far if they maintain this level of play where they just face any opponent with confidence, and they go in and say, we can take this game, even if it's from the perceived top-seeded teams at the moment. And I think a player like Victor Oladipo should be given that leadership role. I don't know what you think, because I think he should be made a leader. He looks like he's got that mindset. He can take the Pacers very far.
No, I think he definitely could. One of the other things that was really interesting for us, because we spent some time in the Royal Bafokeng Nation this weekend as part of the Royal Bafokeng Junior NBA Finals for 2017.
Oh, in the northwest province of South Africa.
Yes. It was a great occasion. There was a gala dinner and there was a forum where we got to speak to some people who work in and around sport and basketball in particular. And then you watch some of these young players do their thing. But the most incredible thing for me was being able to chat to the likes of Jerome Junkyard Dog Williams.
Oh my word! I feel like barking right now.
Go for it. Dog pound all the way. But the thing about the Junkyard Dog was he had so many great stories and so many lessons that he shared with some of the kids there and with us. And he spoke about what makes him so passionate about the game of basketball. So here's a little something that we actually got some audio from an interview with him. So the Junkyard Dog really is an incredible player and a true legend of the game. And he was here for one of the NBA Sundays events that we had, and NBA Sundays continue this weekend. We've actually got a great game coming up with the Atlanta Hawks playing the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Look, Cyrus, that's going to be an exciting game.
It really will be.
I mean, you remember the back and forth they had last season, and now it's early in the season. They're matching up. The Hawks, you know,
they haven't been at their best.
They haven't been at their best, but neither have the Cavs.
Yes.
So maybe this is one of those games whereby, like, don't take us for granted because we haven't performed so well.
On
you shouldn't do that either. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So both teams are going to be, you know, trying to prove that they're still, you know, playoffs worthy, and, you know, with the Cavs, championships worthy because, you know, they were champions more recently. Great matchup. You know, both teams are going to come with a fire, and of course, at the Hawks, we always have that soft spot for Dennis Schroeder.
Yes, our Gambian German brother,
who was the second best performer behind Victor Oladipo in the NBA Africa game.
Yes, he was indeed. He was indeed. You know, Schroeder is that kind of player who somehow manages to find space when there doesn't seem to be any. And he's so explosive when he's going to the hoop that you just think, who can stop this man?
I always say, he reminds me, all the time I will say this, he reminds me of a young Rajon Rondo. You know, the length of the arms, his style of play, the way he crosses the ball, his confidence, the way he drives to that hoop. He is just Rondo reincarnated for me. Whoa. You know, just with a funkier hairstyle.
I see it. I see it. And he is basically the leader of that Hawks team now.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to lead the charge against the Cavaliers. And it's going to be great to see what the rookie Collins can do if he gets some game time. But also how Kent Bazemore does. You know, the base gaze is something we haven't seen for a while.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. I'm sure it's coming this Sunday. I mean, you know, you can catch all these games on Questa Free Sports and Questa Sports 1. And if you're in areas where it's available, you can get it on the Questa Play device.
Oh,
which I think
definitely.
is one of the most fantastic additions to digital television as we know it.
You know, you say that because it's true.
Absolutely. And I've got one.
Me too. Fancy that. We're twins in that regard. Well, look, we're going to have to leave it there for this week. But we will be back next week. There's going to be more great post-up action. And we just love the season so far. There's going to be more surprises. So from me, Cyrus Rogers.
And from me, Kaunda, hoping you are enjoying the current NBA season. We'll see you in 7.